That was the sound of the buzzer. Virginia losing in a disgusting fashion, 76-54 to Notre Dame. Nothing to really talk that great about. Fresh, give me just overall some of the things that stuck out to you watching the game that were awful.
Yeah. I can't hide it. The biggest thing that stuck out to me was our best player having horrendous turnovers, looking a little bit lost, not decisive, I think, and turning that into like dribbling out of bounds, making some bad passes and things like that. And as your best player goes, as you know, the team usually goes, right? I mean, we had a scenario. I hate to bring it back to us, but let's go. 1991 or 92, we went to South Bend, ABC game, noon, and one of our best players, John Crotty, didn't have a good game. Ended up fouling out. Bryant had to have 19 points in 3 minutes. We did win. But that's what I saw, and I think as your best player goes, your team tends to go. Their freshman point guard, Marcus, what's the last name? I want to say Smart, but it's not Smart. I knew he was good. Kyle Getter, former Virginia assistant, told me how good he was, and he showed up and wanted to play against the best, which is Reese, and he really showed out.
Yeah, that kid. Let's get his name right here.
Marcus Burton.
Marcus Burton was special today, and
he took the challenge, man.
Yeah, and watching him play. He played aggressively. He played freely. He was under control. There's some freshman mistakes there, but the athleticism there is there, and the trust in himself to make plays is there because the coach trusts him. As a freshman, he handed him the keys. I guess you could say we did that with Reese, but Reese doesn't play like him. Marcus Burton split every pick and roll. Got into the paint, made great shots, good touch, nice passes out of it. He played like a guy I want to have on our team.
Well, he played. You know what he did? He played side to side and then downhill, right? He didn't go to side and just fade and probe. He was very decisive and to your point, slashing everything. Yes, and what does that do? It makes everything happen. Then you get the 3-point shooters wide open.
Yeah. Justin Anderson chiming in. What's up, J.A.? Yeah. So, Justin, I don't know if you saw the game, but it was one of our worst performances that I can remember. It was gross. Spencer, what stuck out to you the most? I have two things, but I'm going to make sure you guys go first.
Yeah, I mean, like Fresh said, the performance by Beekman was definitely not one of his best and probably one of the worst I've seen from him in a while. He had more turnovers than he had assists, which is very rare, especially for a player who's pretty much annually leading the country in assist to turnover ratio. And on top of that, he was shooting 5 for 15 from the field, which is not good enough for a guy who's supposed to be our best player and our leader and is a fourth-year guy. On top of that, I just think that all around just sloppy play. And we played a lot better defensively in the second half, especially in the early part of the second half, but we couldn't put it together on offense. And I mean, you could hold them to 4 minutes straight without getting a point, but if you're not scoring, then it's not helping you at all.
Yeah, I'm not sure where Justin is. Is he in Spain now? I've seen it on social media, but love to hear his take as a player, a recent player. Those noon games on the road, his teams are always fired up. He always brought it. There's no secret to that. But Tyler makes a good point. We don't have any Justin Andersons on this team, man.
Yeah, a couple things stuck out to me. Number one, I was just shocked at how often we got beaten off the dribble, right? Off the dribble from the catch. Early in the first half, one of the players, Konecki, went by Ryan Dunn a couple times. And Ryan is, an elite defender and a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. We just just don't have that kind of defensive stopping ability. That was one thing that stuck out. The second thing, and this is, I don't know if this will ever change, but Tony's stubbornness stuck out to me a lot. When you're down by as much as we were down in the second half and you want to win the game, you've got to start trapping. You've got to start, you got to throw, as Dave the Wave likes to say, you got to throw a curveball. And yeah, we played a little bit of zone, but that's not going to create a ton of turnovers. When you're down by as much as we were down and you're trying to win, you have to get the ball more and you have to score quickly. And we just didn't have any urgency. And then
how many transition points do we have today? I don't remember any.
No, I agree with that. The third thing that stuck out to me is just we really don't have anybody that can get their shot. Elijah is like the only guy that I think can get his shot. Reese can get in the lane and do some things from time to time, but he's not a shooter. His shot does not look good. IMAC doesn't really get his own shots that much. He might have that ability. Justin saying Reese could be tired. He is carrying a big load for sure. But we need bucket getters. We need guys who can go and get their own shot, because the shots we take late in the shot clock, we could have taken early in the shot clock. They're not good looks. It's not like we're swinging the ball side to side and someone's getting an open three or we're throwing it down low for a jump hook. Our buckets, like our degree of difficulty is really high on just about every shot we take. The few times that we run, we get a little bit there, but man, you could take a shot in the first 5 seconds of the shot clock and it's going to look remarkably similar to the shot we take at the end of the shot clock. And that's not a good sign for us. But I think as we kind of move forward, the big question is where do we go from here, right? What are we going to change? Because against elite competition this year, you look at Memphis, you look at Florida, we got the win there. You look at Wisconsin. When we've played good teams, we have not done well. So where do we go from here? And Fresh, I'm gonna throw it to you with suggestions and thoughts on what's the next step that we should make, and what do you think Tony will do?
Yeah, well, I wanted to make one point where you're talking about offensively. We're a team that stands around a lot, right? If you get Reese trying to go to the basket, watch the other guys. IMAC fade to the corner, do something. We hit the post to Big Blake. Everybody just watches him do his move. How about slashing, cutting, mixing it up like a Houston would do? Get ready for an offensive glass. It's a miss for them, and we're all back, and we're down 20 points. What we should do, I think you got to find the best players and play them. You got to go with the guys. I know it's hard to do, and certain guys have gotten a lot of minutes, but what have they done with their minutes? IMAC's going to come out of the slump. He's not going to, shoot 20% the rest of the year from three, et cetera. There's a couple of guys I just haven't been convinced of vis-a-vis their playing time with the core group, right? We talk about coming off the bench as a player, and I'm just going to say Elijah because I watch him too much. I know it's annoying. But if he comes in and plays with, guys that aren't the starters or not with Reese, he's becoming just a straight up backup point guard. Is that ideal situation for a guy like that? I'm not sure. The mix is tough. When Groves is kind of your most steady player, it's probably not a great thing. And I've been very impressed with Groves overall, but you don't need him to be our most steady, best player. You find the best guys and you go with them.
Yeah, so I assume, and I'll read the tea leaves here. You're talking about Rhodey a bit, right? A guy who gets a lot of minutes, who has didn't have a good game today, 5 points. The best possession we ran the whole day was early in the second half. We ran an action for him where he was coming off the baseline and curling. He made the three, and then the next time he caught it and curled in and made a nice pass. That was two good plays. But outside of that, I feel like he's out there a lot, and he doesn't have a tremendous impact. Now, he's not screwing up. He's not dribbling it off his foot. He's not
Right.
turning it over a ton, but it's sort of a safe style of play. And, safe doesn't get you anywhere.
And not only Rhodey, but I noticed in him the most. When you catch the ball on the perimeter and you're either looking sideways and the basket's there or you're going backward, you're just not a threat. You don't have to be a threat. You don't have to come off and shoot it every time, but you catch the ball and you look at the basket, right? Even if you go like the Ty Jerome, let's just go back to Ty. Even if Ty's going side to side, he's chest to the basket, right? Unless you're picking a spot to go get a bucket.
Yeah.
So it's everybody's not a threat in this offense when they catch the ball. In fact, it's very kind of methodical. And as a defender, when they're not a threat, and when you can cheat it and do these sort of things, right?
Spencer, I'll ask you a question. Do you think we can win ACC basketball games if the other team scores 70 points?
I mean, the simple answer is yes, if we could score 80 points. But
Right.
I don't think that, at least the way that we play today, I don't think that this team is going to score 80 points. But I think that this team is definitely capable of it. I mean, we showed flashes earlier in the season, albeit against lesser competition, that we have some good shooters on our team. McNeely can light it up. Rhodey, if he's hot, can light it up. Groves can light it up. We have shooters all around. The issue is we need to start shooting against better competition, and we have not shown that we could do that just yet.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing on that, right? When you're playing better athletes, they are closer to you and they're more disruptive to your rhythm and your shot than when you're playing a North Carolina A&T, a Morgan State, a Charleston Chew, whatever that Charleston State or Charlatan State. Like, you're open against those guys. You're not open against Notre Dame. And Notre Dame looked a lot more athletic and a lot more skilled than us, which surprised me. I thought it would be a tough game because of the time slot, because of the time of year, early game, on the road, all that. I didn't expect them to look a lot bigger and more athletic than us. So that was a surprise. Fresh, it seems like we've got a lot of wings, right? We've got a bunch of guys that kind of play the same position. You got Rhodey, you got IMAC, you got Tane. You could throw Elijah in there. He plays some too.
Yep.
We've got
Leon
Bond,
maybe. Yeah.
Bond in there. We've got a lot of and they're all a little bit different, but there seems to be a surplus there. Who do you think should be playing? I know on forum they talked about, either IMAC or Rhodey should become 6-man. There was a lot of chatter during the game on that. Where do you sit on that? And if you had to start, we play NC State next, right? Who starts for us if you were the head coach, and who gets minutes, and whose minutes go up, whose minutes go down?
I mean, I love the idea of Rhodey off the bench. I think he's cerebral enough. He can sit and watch the game as a 6-man. He can sub. Let's go Reese, IMAC. What do we have? We have to have, I guess, Grove starts, Ryan Dunn for sure. I'm maybe Leon Bond. You let Leon get the energy going early, right? And let him go, and then Rhodey can sub three positions.
So who's your starting five? Who's your starting five for NC State?
Against NC State, Reese, Isaac McNeely, Groves, Ryan Dunn. Ryan's going to come out of it too, don't worry. And the other one's a wild card. I'd go with Leon Bond. I'd let Leon, as a first-year player, do something for his confidence. I don't think he's a great ball handler, great passer, great dribbler, but it can do something for his confidence, bring energy quick, and then Rhodey can be the settling factor coming off the bench, whether it needs to be for Isaac, probably Leon, and then you have Elijah. Let's let Elijah cook.
Okay, we got a question here. A better question that I should have asked is that is who will you use the bench for if you shuffle talent to the bench? So I'll tell you who I would start. I'd start Reese and IMAC. I would start Elijah. I would start Groves, and I'd start Buchanan and let them play. I know Buchanan has been underwhelming. He sort of had his Tane moment like Tane had against Pitt when we played Florida. But I do believe that you have to have someone that's going to alter some shots and get some rebounds. If you're going to get, beaten as badly as we're getting beat, we have to have somebody down there with a little bit of size. So that's who I would start. Spencer, who would you start?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's tough to say that Elijah's ready to start just yet. I mean, he's definitely has the potential down the line to be that guy. But the issue for me right now is that he definitely shows some of that inexperience in his play. Like he had that walk earlier today, and like he's had some turnovers in the game against Memphis. He looked like he was a little bit too fast for his own good at times. He's kind of run out of his shoes and leaving the ball. So I mean, I'd like to see Elijah if he can kind of lock down some of those like young guy mistakes. On the other side, I think that between Dunn, Isaac, and Reese, there's really only two other slots to fill guys in, and I feel like the 5 position at this point is really just who knows. It seems like day to day, like Buchanan plays really well, then Groves is playing well, and Minor has had some flashes, but he's also had some flashes of less consistency. He lost the ball a couple times today. And then against Morgan State, he had a couple missed. He had some good moves, and he had some times where he missed a couple easy ones around the basket. But I think that, it really doesn't look like we have a right answer just yet because we haven't figured that out.
Fresh, let me ask this question. Let me ask you a question. So Spencer said, we don't know if he's ready to start. We're talking about Elijah, and like, do we as a program put too much energy into that narrative that like it's really hard to become to learn the pack line and all that? I mean, the point guard for Notre Dame, Marcus, whatever his last name was. I mean, he's a freshman. He's playing through. He's now played, 10 or 11 games. He's probably played through a lot of that like early nervousness. Was he perfectly ready to start on day one? No, but they played him because they saw stuff, and now he's going to be a better player. I guess we have done it with some point guards, but I feel like we put too much into that narrative that it's like you have to be perfect like right out of the gate.
Yeah, and look, everybody's different, right? Coaches should not coach every player as if everybody has the same set of rules. I get we have pillars and that stuff, but that's intangibles, right? Or non-negotiables. That's fine. But every player should be coached differently. Do some guys need to start? Is Elijah that guy? Maybe. Does that make his confidence go through the roof? Possibly. But I think like a guy like Brody can handle coming off the bench. I think he's been a guy who's looked to fit in the way I see him playing, as opposed to where he was playing in Minnesota or wherever, where he was the man.
St. Thomas, yeah.
So I think St. Thomas. So every guy's different, and what I've seen with Elijah is he belongs, right? He doesn't look like a fish out of water, a freshman, so to speak, etc. He's tried a bunch of stuff. Not so much today, but in the past games, he's done 3 to 5 things that he's the only player in the court that could do. Kind of like a Justin Anderson would do as a first year, right? And I'm sure Justin, probably went through it and talking to coaches like, I want to play more minutes than that. But just every guy's different is my point. And some guys, I don't think Tane responds very well coming off the bench. I think he has a lot of bad luck. Today he went by the kid and he lost the ball or something happened and he caught it and he finally finished, which was good luck, so to speak, right? Maybe Tane could start. Does that help him? And Tane start and play 15 minutes, not start and play 30. There's plenty of similar pieces to move around. Bond, Rhodey, Elijah, etc. You're going to have Reese and IMAC, in my opinion, as the stalwarts. We're back to you talking about wings.
Yeah,
big men. It's hard for me. I don't see how you keep Brian Dunn out. You just got to get him to forget about the NBA and like really to get to the NBA. What you do every game in college is a stepping stone to that, right? If you don't leapfrog these steps.
Yeah, I think we need, the challenges this year are I don't think we're elite defensively like we have been in the past. And I don't care what the ratings are and all that. I just see us getting beat more. So if you're not as good defensively, what's the wrinkle we throw in there? And then secondly, we have got to figure out a way to score the basketball, right? We've got to find out.
Yep.
I think Elijah is an answer there. I think Groves and IMAC need to shoot a lot more. And I think Reese is at his best when he's facilitating early, and then in the second half, like gets in the lane, gets his shots. He's not a shooter. Like we always kind of hoped he would grow into one. I think it's fair to say 3.5 years into his career, he's not a shooter. So how do we deploy him? It's get other guys shots, and he carries a big load. Justin mentioned it. We mentioned it. But if we can't defend that well and we can't score that well, then we're not good. And we've got to come up with some new plans on how to get
something else hit me. Something else hit me. We go on the 7-0 run in the second half, and we're playing okay defense. But what really killed us at that point? Offensive rebounds by them. That's a time when I throw Elijah Gertrude in. And I say, your job as a guard, you do all the pack line, you guard your man. When the ball goes up, you're a rebounder. You're not leaking. You're not looking to, get a breakaway dunk. The second thing, and it's very easy to have, and I love this. At times, when you get the ball to Reese as a point guard, how about Reese just kick it up the sideline one time? Rhodey's crafty with the ball. IMAC, let's just fuck it. IMAC, catch it. Just shoot a transition three. Find Elijah leaking out. Richard Morgan style, man. I mean, IMAC can make them. He can make them. Let Elijah leak out and get it where we're 3-on-2 maybe, right? Against their two bigs or something, or like a small guard and a big. We never ever throw that long up the sideline pass. Now, if we're in control of the game, I get it. Ty Jerome, walk it up. We're in control. We're up by 7. It's different. You're down 15. You're down 10. You're down 7. Making a run. Let's just push it at them one time. They haven't seen it. They didn't see it one time today. Their defense, right? And you got to add little wrinkles in. I think players can do that. Reese is not coming out. He can do whatever he wants, right? By and large. So I would take it on myself as a player to change a couple of things up.
Why do you guys think? Why do you guys think it's so hard for us to develop big men? You look around college basketball. There are good and effective big men still in the game. Maybe not like old school traditional centers, like in the 80s and 90s, like an Eric Montrose, rest in peace. But guys that, it's always been the theory that it's hard because of the way we play defense and the hard hedge and the why do we have to hard hedge? Like if that's what's holding us back from having a center, why do we have our center, 20 feet from the basket, like trying to stop a guard and then recover? I know that's how we play, but is it worth bypassing good players and effective, big men because we play the hard hedge? I don't know.
I think the hard hedge conundrum, if you want to, you don't have Akil Mitchell every year. The guy that guarded 4 players at the same time as a big man. I've never seen anything like it. It's not. If you're really good and your coaches trust you and you really understand the system, there's an old term we use: communication. Right? If I'm the best player, if I'm the best defender, the best big man, I know when to hard hedge and when not to. Right? And you talk to them like, Reese, I'm here. Have a code word. I'm going or not going. Whatever it is. Yeah. And so you selectively do it. One reason I think we don't develop big men, if we're talking about offensively, is A, they get no post touches, none. And B, A1 and AB or whatever, is they're focused on screening. If you're playing the blocker mover, you are a screener over and over and over again. So when are you slipping or when are you actually looking for the ball? No, you're screening. And it's very hard as a big man to get that middle ground. Jack Salt, 25 screens of possession. Rarely look for the ball. When he got it, it could be a small disaster, right? And I think that's all ties into the development of, what we develop as big men.
I'll throw this one out to the locker room access crew. Who is our best center since 2000? Right? Who is the center we've had that's been the most effective and our best, most skilled center we've had in the last 23 years? And we'll take some of that. But I think we had a couple comments about blocker mover scares people, like you said, Fresh. If you're a big time center in high school, do you really just want to run around and set screens? Jim says Jay Huff. That was mine, Jim. So we're I see you.
I knew it.
Yeah, I the florist was special. He could shoot. He was long. I didn't love the beard, but actually today on SportsCenter they were talking about showing some like moments over the past like 10 years of like agonizing defeats, and they showed Kaden. I think after the UMBC loss. So a couple of Mitchell or Diakite, Watson. Yeah, these are good. I don't feel like
I thought Atkins became kind of the most developed, strictly big man. Like he had great moves around the basket. He figured out the defense. He followed Akil. Probably learned a lot with and from Akil. And you know what, Darian? I think Darian, he figured out at some point, if I want to be on the court, I better do things the way they're telling me to, and then I can do the rest. And that's another hard thing, man. Guys that want to get time, and how do you get time? By doing everything the coaches ask of you, but then how you blossom out from that, right?
Yeah, and we're getting a lot of suggestions here. Someone said Diakite. I think he was massively effective. I don't know if he was a center though. I know he played down there, but he wasn't a true like big guy center. It's also unique, I think, that we had probably the most dominant center in the history of NCAA basketball, or one of the top 2 or 3 in Ralph. There were other great centers. Kareem was great. Bill Walton was great. There's a lot of great ones, but Ralph is up there.
You know what we've missed in a big way, in my opinion, are centers or big men that can post and make really good passes out of there, or tight passes, or swinging it for a 3. Ted Jeffries, we played with one of the best big men passers ever, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Getting the ball out, knowing where to go, the right play to make, those great hands and the whole thing. We don't have a lot of guys that pass very well out of the post. So as a guard, maybe you don't go there if you don't think it's going to be effective.
So the other thing that sticks out when I look at some of our great teams that we've had under Tony, the point guard has been able to shoot, right? We've had obviously Ty Jerome, great shooter, hit some a lot of big shots, but deep range, a good shooter. We had who played with Justin. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on his name right now.
London could shoot.
London could shoot it. We've got a really good point guard right now who's not a good shooter. Is that Fresh? Do you think that hinders us offensively a lot?
It absolutely does, because guys don't have to guard you. You've got to guard Ty Jerome for 35 feet effectively, right? And that sets the whole thing up. We had great scores: John Crotty, Corey Alexander, afterwards Donald Hand. They weren't the purest shooters, but they were a threat every time they had the ball for something to happen, right? And we can go on and on. There's been a bunch of them. Sammy Galinsky, what was his kid's name? He was an unreal shooter and a playmaker. This, again, as a point guard and guarding somebody, being able to sag and being able to pick and not thinking that you're going to be a threat, it's a great thing for me as a defender. When you're guarding a guy like London Prentice, and he might just pull up at any second and drill one from anywhere, that puts a lot of pressure on you.
Fresh, how much would you have hated? Yeah, how much would you have hated guarding Marcus Burton? Is that your kryptonite type point guard?
It's exactly my kryptonite. He's probably listed at 6, which means he's 5'10". He's fast.
Listed at 5'11". 5'11".
Yeah. So he's 5'8". He's low, he's under you. You can't get under him, which is all you want to. Like, I could guard a 6'6" guy easier, like somebody like you, than I could at him. That's my total kryptonite, 100%.
Yeah. Well, let's take a couple of questions from the crowd. They've been popping up here and there. Spencer,
Yeah,
can you
great
access?
discussion. I love this stuff.
Can you access the questions? There we go. Not many passes.
Here we go.
Are all, yeah.
Yeah, me and Hav were in a chat with somebody else, and they were talking about how Kihei really set up Reese, and Kihei made the right passes. I don't think Kihei always made the right passes vis-a-vis giving it to Jack Salt. I mean, giving it to the Flores in the post, Jay Huff, other guys, but he was able to get guys going on the perimeter, and so I'm not sure who they are outside of Reese.
Yeah, I think that's the thing with those guys like Kihei and Reese is that they're very good players when they're the supporting players for guys who could shoot really well. I mean, like we saw Kihei his first year, the national championship year, setting up guys like Kyle Guy and Ty Jerome who were lighting it up from the perimeter and from mid-range. And like Kihei thrived in that environment when he was not the center of the defense's attention, but he was able to make those plays and facilitate and move the ball around. And I think that it's kind of a similar thing with Reese, where he is the guy who is getting the bulk of the attention from the defense, and because of that, he's not really getting the opportunity to dish out passes to guys who can shoot it and consistently make shots.
Kihei's last pass.
Eric from the cheap seats right there.
Yeah,
that was Kaden's fault, right? Kaden was supposed to be there.
Kaden, the guy doesn't talk. He's supposed to be there.
Yeah, that.
And who down Cherry Hill makes a good point. AG Anthony Gill got touches. Anthony Gill just had that demand to him, like he demanded the ball, right? It's kind of like, as a point guard, you can look guys off every now and again. Like, I don't think I'm going to look off Justin Anderson. I'm not just saying that because he was a year before, but Anthony Gill, he would get so wide and low to the ground and be like 5 people at once, and you got to give them the ball when they work that hard, right? And that's another thing for big men have. You were one of the best post beaters in the history of the University of Virginia, whether people remember or not. But it's when guys demand the ball and you're looking at them, it's hard to look that off, right? And we had Bryant Stiff. I mean, let's just go back to that. And you could throw the ball within 10 feet of him, and he's going to tip it to himself with one finger and somehow get it and make a play at the same time. So that's Anthony Gill had a lot of that. It's a great point.
Yeah, those guys, the guys that have the big catch radius, like Bryant had like the biggest I've ever seen for anyone his size. Junior had a good catch radius. Like he would just get low and, he was big back then, not all shredded up like he is now. But Junior was like a big body. You could throw it in. TJ had that nice, left hand you could throw it to. I think the changes are, I think, maybe going to come. I think we'll see a shakeup in the lineup against NC State. Okay, yeah. Here's Will Watts. What would we do differently? What are the 2 changes you would make? I think one for me, and I'll go first, and then you guys can go. I would change the starting lineup. I'd have Rhodey coming off the bench, and that doesn't mean, by the way, that he's not going to play a lot. He'll still play a lot, but look, the Celtics were the inventors of the 6-man role, Frank Ramsey, and then my dad, and they've had other guys follow along in those footsteps. That spark of energy, I think he could fill that role. I do think Elijah needs to get in. And then I like this is heresy, but I do like us having another look with the zone. Okay, if you're playing a team and you mix that in. How many possessions did we play today? Like 3, maybe 4. I know we played 5 against Memphis in the zone. He's going to the zone because we're getting beat. So if we're getting beat, let's throw it in. Let's do it 5 possessions in the first half, 5 in the second, and eventually teams will game against that. But it's something to throw at them. So those are my 2.
When we really, are you done? I'm sorry, I'm not interrupting.
No, yeah.
When we really struggle, it's a game like today where everything they're doing, for whatever reason, is working against what we're doing. I'm talking about our defense, not our offense. Sorry. So to your point, change something up. just change something. I think go double the post or whatever, different things. But you got to change it up. I didn't see that at all today, except for the zone. Offensively, I'm telling you, I love kicking the ball up the side every now and again. Don't just walk it up every time, unless you're in control. If you're in control of the game, walk it up, fine. But just let's kick it and just run it down the side like Duke does. Use your players that have skills. And again, IMAX shooting threes, Gertrude just jumping over everybody, getting to the rim. Just let it go every now and again, man. That's the main thing I would change. I love, me and you agree on this too much, but I love Brody off the bench. And selling him on to your point about the Celtics, about the 6-man thing.
6-man.
Yeah, look, you got to play your bucket getters to a degree if you're having as much trouble scoring as we're having. Guys that can get their shot. When that shot clock, work our blocker, mover, triangle, whatever we're playing. If it starts to break down and we're inside of 10 seconds, you got to get the ball to a guy who can get a shot that isn't like two up fakes and they're sort of falling away, and like there's just too many of those like bad shots we take.
Yeah.
I'd like to see that. I think Elijah has that. I think Leon Bond has that. And maybe IMAC has it, but I feel like he got so hot that he thought, okay, I've got to only really shoot threes. Now, he was a little more aggressive unsuccessfully in the second half, but he certainly got the athleticism to go get his shot. But it's staggeringly obvious to me how hard it is for us to score. Whenever I watch another game, I'm always shocked. I'm like, oh, look, there's a jump hook from 4 feet, like easy bucket for a big guy. Oh, there's a transition point. Like, we don't get any of those, and it's manifesting itself in a way this year that is not leading us to have good results against good teams. So we've got to figure that out.
I was
a
bit baffled.
Oh, I'm sorry, Spencer. What are your 2 changes?
I don't know. I feel like a lot of the things that we're like missing out on is not as much like tactical changes and more just we got to make shots. We got to stop throwing the ball away. I think that maybe we could mix up the starting lineup. We could maybe like switch in Elijah. We could maybe switch in Leon Bond. Maybe start with Buchanan again. But other than that, I feel like we need someone who's in the paint, and our team doesn't really have that outside of Minor. And I think that maybe we just need to work on focusing on how do we hit shots every game, no matter how good of the competition we're playing is.
Yeah, we got a good question there, and I think we talked about it maybe in the forum or on a chat, but did Getter assist in the game plan for Notre Dame? The answer is unequivocally yes. Like, that guy knows our program. He knows what we run, and they game plan for us, just like Penny did. Penny had a good game plan against us, Memphis. And, we've talked in the past, and this is a bell moment where you hit the bell, but, you talk about the blueprint against us, and talented teams are effectively using the blueprint against us, which is essentially you got to lock IMAC up and keep an eye on Groves, but let the other guys shoot.
Yeah, I mean, that's a rhetorical question. Tom, I agree. And Jen, you pointed out, I got to go see, I said it before, I think, Notre Dame play at the Barclays in November, and with Coach Getter, saw Alfonso Ellis, all of it. And I was impressed with Notre Dame. They just have limited personnel. They can't go 10 deep. They can't, but the guys that played, I was very surprised at how effective they were defensively against us. We made the points earlier. Nothing easy. They seemed to smother. There was one possession in the second half. I remember Elijah was in, and it was like 10 seconds in the shot clock. 4 guys in a row tried to go get a bucket and just got stifled. Now, Getter knows the blueprint. He knows what has been effective against Virginia teams in the past. And absolutely, he was a big, big part of that prep.
Do we have any, if we head into the season, after today, I think everyone's kind of reevaluating their win total in the ACC. and we are a middle of the road team. Do we have transfer risk on the roster right now? Like if someone like Elijah, who's obviously a talented player, isn't getting the chance and the opportunities, is he a transfer risk? Is Blake Buchanan say, you know what, I don't want to run around and set screens for 3 years? Is Leon say, like, is there transfer risk right now on our team?
Yeah, it's death, taxes, and transfer risk in the modern NCAA basketball, right? And kids are gonna a player like Elijah. I'm sure he already heard it around Jersey City and elsewhere, but people are in these guys' ears, man. Leon Bond, they're like, why aren't you playing in Wisconsin? What's the difference? Different things like that, right? So that's always a risk. There's really no, and Reese is going to be gone. So is that kind of the glue, and people want to play with Reese, et cetera? Do guys want to step up, and does Elijah want to make it his team? Does Leon want to make it his team? Ryan Dunn, et cetera. I think that's 100% always a thing, always.
How hard, Spence, how hard do you think it is on the recruiting trail for, coach and staff to recruit kids to Virginia? When you look at where our kids are coming from, we've kind of made a living finding some diamonds in the rough. And every once in a while, we have like a really heralded player come in. But is it sustainable, this style of play, and does it affect us on the recruiting trail?
I mean, I think that in general, it should be able to be sustainable. I don't think that we're necessarily recruiting the right guys at this point, especially out of the transfer portal. I think that our high school recruits, we talked about this after, I think it was the Memphis game, the high school recruits are not never the best recruiting classes, but we have had some good success coming out of picking up guys from high school. I think that the transfer recruiting, especially this year, has left a lot to be desired. I mean, we got a pretty solid crop of guys who have not been putting up the stats that maybe we would have hoped for up to this point in the season. So I think that the more pressing concern is that transfer recruiting. I mean, it's kind of interesting to think that we're getting guys who have had no NCAA film, and we're picking out the guys who are going to play well for us. But then we look at guys who have played at higher levels, and we have a lot more information on them, and we're not able to pick out the right guys to work with our system.
Fresh, I'll ask you this one. So, when you and I played, there was a 1-year penalty if you transferred, and that was a huge deterrent for people just
Sure.
putting their name in and rolling out. In today's day and age, you can move freely, and the one-time transfer rule thing. Does it make sense for us to go get the guys that have played at a significantly lower level, a guy like Rhodey, a guy like Minor? Do you think we can find people in that level, or do we need to stick to like the call it power 6 with Big East type of player?
Yeah, I think it's kind of the conundrum, right? Because if you're a real player that we would want immediately from Michigan, that player's probably not transferring, right? They're probably playing 30 minutes a game in Michigan, and different thing. I guess Hunter Dickinson did transfer out, but he had no interest in us. That's the great question, right? Do you find a lot of teams have found these guys from lower level programs who come in and been significant contributors, like the guy at Virginia Tech, all his guys from Wofford or wherever he was before and things. But it's a really hard thing, and I personally don't like going
down,
like lower levels of guys. Teams have become Division I a year ago, 2 years ago. We could name the 2 teams we're thinking about right now. I'd rather go to guys that have seen big arenas, played at Oklahoma, played different things like that, like Groves, as opposed to come in and let's see. Unless you found John Morant somewhere and you were kind of lucky, but he's going to the NBA, so it's a hard thing. I prefer not to. I prefer to go to a guy that wants to transfer from Alabama, so to speak, or whatever, kind of a bigger place, and do it that way.
Yeah, I agree. I find
if you have the luxury,
huh?
If you have that luxury, if you can get them, right?
Yeah, I mean, I find it hard to believe. So you look at a kid like Rhodey, who's playing a lot of minutes for us. A year and a half ago, he was. I mean, we didn't recruit him at Virginia, and I find it hard to believe that like a year playing at St. Thomas, which is a low-level program, a year of playing there and basically doing what he wants and shooting a lot has prepared him to play in the ACC. I guess we'll see how he does, but I think in some cases it's just too big a jump, right? You have Miners obviously struggled mightily this year and is having a hard time getting on the floor. Rhodey has an easy time getting on the floor, but hasn't been that effective. I just think it's really difficult to go to these lower, unless there's a kid that has a big growth spurt or really develops in like a year. I just don't see it being a viable way to build your team. I do like Groves. You can tell he's played in big games on big stages. He plays at a different kind of there's a different calmness in him. He's not overwhelmed by the moment. And he hasn't he's seen it. he's not scared. And the pace of the game isn't overwhelming to him. So, all right, we got NC State coming up, I believe, on Tuesday. Is it a Tuesday game? Is that right? Do we know?
I believe it's we've got Louisville on the 3rd.
Louisville on the 3rd. Okay.
Yeah, and that's at home.
It's a home game. All right. They've had their struggles, so maybe we can right the ship and feel good. Anyway, guys, appreciate you guys tuning in. Always love hearing from you. Send us questions. We'll be on pregame for the Louisville game in Charlottesville. Locker room access for Fresh and Spencer. I'm Hav. We'll see you in a couple days.
Go Hoos.